to live as freely and equally as everyone else, to be who we want to be and love who we want to love. We all want this. The global movement for LGBTQ plus rights has had big wins in recent years, but we're still far away from achieving true inclusivity and equality. Come on, guys, it's 2022. It's time, diba? Tonight, we are at the Task Us Phoenix office in Ortigas, where we are going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusivity, especially in the workplace. Task Us is a provider of outsourced digital services and next-generation customer experience to fast-growing technology companies, helping its clients represent, protect, and grow their brands. And beyond servicing their clients' digital needs, part of their mission is to be a champion for diversity and make every workplace safe and inclusive for everyone. I'm RICA, SALOMON, your host for today, and this is See the World Through a Rainbow Lens, a roundtable discussion on why LGBTQ plus inclusivity matters. We have three main objectives for tonight. First, we want to break down why this topic remains relevant and what safe working environment should look like. Second, what are companies doing so far to support the LGBTQ plus community and how can everyone else follow suit? And lastly, what does it really mean to be an ally and what values are younger generations looking for when it comes to choosing a company to work for? To help us break down these topics, we are joined by an esteemed panel of experts. First, we have the millennial psychologist herself, RIYAN Portuguez. RIYAN is known as your millennial psychologist on YouTube and social media. She took her undergraduate and master's of psychology at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. She is a registered psychologist and psychometrician. RIYAN is the co-chairperson of the Psychological Association of the Philippines LGBT Psychology Special Interest Group. Hello, RIYAN.
Hi, Rica. So nice to see you in person.
Nice to see you too. Dati nakikita lang kita sa TikTok, but now we're here.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to our next panelist. So we also have with us disability rights advocate Marcos Apariano. Marcos recently finished his MA in political science major in global politics at the Ateneo de Manila University School of Social Sciences. He was a U.S. Department of State's Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative academic fellow at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. Currently, he is working to strengthen the capabilities of local government functionaries through the Local Government and Development Office in the Development Academy of the Philippines. Hello, Marcos.
Hello, Rica. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well.
Do you feel any pressure right now?
I don't feel any pressure right now.
Good. Marami pa tayo pag-uusapan. So here at the Task Us Phoenix office as well is Adi De La Cruz. He is the Task Us Director of Brand Strategy and Channels. Sorry. Adi has been with Task Us for over 5 years. He also leads Task Us Unicorns, an employee-led research group for LGBTQIA+ members in the workplace. Outside the office, he's taking his graduate studies in sustainability management. Hello, Adi.
Hi, Rica.
How are you?
Really good. I'm excited.
Parang kinakabahan ka kanina, but I'm excited to hear your thoughts about the topic. Okay ba kayong lahat?
Yes, we're good.
Very
I'm
much.
excited.
Okay, and lastly, joining us all the way from Texas is Anna Marfil, Task Us Senior Director for Diversity and Inclusion. Anna Marfil has over 15 years of experience leading talent management and diversity, equity, and inclusion in different sectors across America's territory. She holds a bachelor's degree in organizational psychology, a master's degree in clinical psychology, and also trained as an executive coach. She is passionate about building inclusive workplaces and how to help organizations thrive through a sense of belonging. Hello, Anna.
Hi, Rika. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here today.
Hello. Thank you for joining us today. What time is it there in Dallas?
7:12 a.m. Very early.
I hope you're ready and prepared for tonight. So, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Task Us, for putting this discussion together. Before we dive into discussion, I would just like to remind everyone that we are live on Raptor's Facebook and YouTube. If you have any comments or questions, we'd love to hear them. Okay, are we ready? So let's start with the global view first on equal rights and opportunities for the LGBTQ plus community and work our way into the region and the country. So what progress has there been on a global scale? Are there still issues that need to be solved globally? Anna and Adi, would you want to start?
Maybe I can give that to Anna first.
Sure, very happy to get that. So, major milestones as a society to achieve equal rights for the LGBTQ plus community. And when we say equal rights, we're talking about marriage, legal recognition, access to mental health, employment, housing, adoption, blood donation, freedom, and even life. So those basic rights that seem unquestionable for most of us are not available for LGBTQ plus community in many countries. So I would say that the region that has made most progress on equal rights has been North America, especially US and Canada. And then on the other hand, we have Northern Africa and Middle East, where homosexuality is still illegal with imprisonment and even death penalty. In Southeast Asia, there are still 4 countries that criminalize homosexuality, which are Malaysia, Singapore, Myanmar, and Brunei. And there are other different laws that target transgender women, gay and trans sex workers. And none of the countries in the Southeast Asia region has provisions for same-sex marriage, or they have any protections for sexual orientation or gender identity. I think based on my research, only Thailand and the Philippines have either local or national level laws on anti-discrimination. There's still a long way to go, right? But it is encouraging to know that there's been progress as we speak. Only in this first half of the year, there's been 32 laws issued or changed in favor of the LGBTQ plus community, mainly about recognizing legally the status of non-binary gender identity, the right to donate blood, and legally banning the conversion therapy. However, even in those countries where there's been significant progress on the LGBTQ plus rights, they still face discrimination and censorship. So that's why, going back to your question at the beginning, it's very important to talk about LGBTQ plus inclusion still in 2022.
Thank you, Anna. Adi?
Just talking about awareness, I think there are so many people who are already aware about the needs. Just knowing about not just the existence, but that we are human beings, and that also means specific rights, because there has been so much oppression, right? But because there's also so much awareness that also is rooted, that also causes people to want to ask more, explore more, and that's why we're discovering more and more specific needs, whether it's psychological, emotional, mental, and that's why we're talking about what does it mean to be LGBTQIA+ at the workplace. So there are so many different intersectionalities about other issues as well. So awareness just gives rise to more awareness, more questions. So that's why the conversation shouldn't stop.
Thank you, Adi. So, going to my next question, how about the reality here in the Philippines?
Well, I agree with Adi. There's so much to unpack when it comes to this advocacy. But based on my experience as a psychologist, I've encountered an increasing rate of professional help seeking in the country among LGBTQ+. And like what Anna have mentioned earlier, it is actually rooted from the basic rights. And most of the LGBTQ+ here in the country are deprived with such basic rights, such as, for instance, access to medicine, restriction from transitioning. It's really hard for us to transition here, especially if you're in a pandemic, right?
Yes.
And there's also lack of access in mental health. So there's so much to unpack, and there's so much to be resolved when it comes to mental health. And I've encountered also that there is an increase when it comes to mental health concerns. It was actually doubled or tripled because of the pandemic. So I think we need to do something about this. No? More than the awareness, we need to actually make a policy that will help or protect the LGBTQ+ in the country.
Yes, and talking about rights, and then I think that we should talk also about SOGI bill, which has been stalled for so many years. but why is this bill been stalled for so many years? I think it's because we should recognize that our Congress, both houses, is still composed of old, privileged, conservative men, and I'm sorry, but we should call a spade a spade. You know, this has been stalled because these people are leading our country, and these are people who are really conservative when it comes to their beliefs. That's why they believe that, especially with our religion, it's also a problem in our country. And why is our advocacy not enough in the grounds? I think when we talk about any advocacy, mobilization from the ground is not just enough, but also we also need champions in the leadership. I applaud Adi for being a leader in his company, and I'm sure that he has been doing great things for the LGBT community. And we also need this in the policy sector, in our government, that we need more champions, not just our allies, the women allies, but also we need men who can be with us in this journey towards inclusion.
I agree. Actually, for me, the situation here in the Philippines, we are dubbed as what? The happiest place, diba? And an LGBT-friendly country. But if you think about it, it's more of tolerance and not acceptance, because there really is a long way to go before we can truly say that we are accepted. Because until now, we still don't even have the Soji bill. Diba? So, ayun. So let's move on to individual experiences. What discriminatory experiences persist in today's society? Does anyone want to share?
I would like to share my personal experience. I haven't encountered major problems when it comes to my sexuality, but more often I've encountered microaggressions from other people, such as some people will compliment me for instance, for being an achiever or being a breadwinner, but most of the time parang they use the word na but, parang RIYAN, I admire you for being an achiever, kahit ganyan ka. Parang ganon. So it's like, okay, they don't find it na problematic, but for me it's kind of problematic because it feels like they see me as lesser as lesser of a lesser person, diba? Kasi heteronormative tayo. So for me, that's one good example of microaggression, insincere compliment or subtle microaggression.
For me, just being out in public with, let's say, my partner, so usually you'd get a chair, and if there are 4 seats around the table, normally when you're 2 guys, you don't like sit together on the same side, but my partner and I are like, diba, we don't care, let them think what they want, so we would do that, and oftentimes people would just look at our table, like they don't look at us in a rude way or anything, but just the fact that they're staring almost the whole time is. Can you imagine doing that to a straight couple? Obviously, probably the guy or the girl would approach you and say, hey, what's your problem, right? But when you're part of the LGBT community or you're a same-sex couple, most likely you would already know why they're just staring at you, probably
you would
judging.
feel conscious.
Exactly. So that's one very simple experience, but I'm sure a lot of us experience it.
Yeah.
Yes, for me as a disabled gay person, I also experience the same microaggressions. But it's harder for me because I'm an able passing person. My disability is not that really apparent compared to other people. And sometimes when we talk about some oppressions, people would say like, hey, come on, just pick your struggle. Do you want to be disabled? Do you want to be gay? So I think it's some of the things that people should know more about, that intersectionalities happen among people, and this is where we could have more allies when we try to educate them about these oppressions and that we face every day.
How about Anna? Can you hear us? Would you want to share any experiences of discrimination?
I think what I've seen more is like this bystander position, right? So at work, you know, when there's like some sort of bullying comment, which are very common, sadly. So I would see that there's a lot of bystanding and people doesn't do anything and people don't care. So there are a few of us that really kind of step up and say, hey, you know, this is not right. And I think that's part of becoming an ally and very important piece of just stopping. It's in our hands to make these kind of conducts stop and really build a safe space for our LGBTQ plus community.
Just to share, I guess from my personal experience, there are still spaces where they don't allow trans women. We are considered cross-dressers, diba? And I've noticed that has been happening quite recently with, you know, with some of my friends, especially bars in BGC. Diba, in Makati, it's still apparent. And we'd be surprised because it's what? Again, it's 2022, this still happens, diba? So again, there's still a long way to go. So with that, I think we can move on to the next part of our discussion. What can we do to help avoid these experiences and really make the workplace a safe space, not just for members of the LGBTQ plus community, but for anyone who experiences other forms of discrimination? Women, for example, of persons with disabilities.
I can start. So for example, at Tascas, you guys probably have seen our all-gender restrooms, right? Well, they're divided into two. You can see all genders. So no matter what your preference is, you can go through any of those. One of the things I'm really proud of because I helped push this program is what we call the self-identity in our database. So basically, self-ID is you can declare your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, gender identity, anything around, anything that could be cause for discrimination. If you want to declare it, you can do that. If you don't want to declare it, that's also okay. That's very valuable, especially for companies, because if you can study the diversity and inclusion, then you can make concrete action towards it. You can invest. Maybe we need to have more women in leadership. Maybe we have very few managers who are LGBT and things like that. So I can say at Tascas, my personal experience, I wouldn't stay here for more than 5 years if I didn't experience that kind of, you know, not just acceptance, as you say, but embracing that. And, you know, gender just becomes like a by the way, and it doesn't really define who you are. But, you know, like RIYAN was saying earlier, we have to acknowledge that we're coming from a place of privilege. Like, not everyone, especially in third world countries like the Philippines, have access to things like all gender restrooms, very inclusive workplaces. And that's why it's so important to talk about it.
Yeah. Anna, could I ask you, like, what company policies are one place where, what company policies can a place have where one can enforce good change?
Sure, absolutely. So I think starting with that anti-discrimination policy or global code of conduct, it may seem so basic, but the fact that we're stating that we don't discriminate sends a very powerful message to both employees and also candidates that we want to attract. And then having also the benefits and healthcare that are inclusive, talking about parental leave instead of maternity leave. So recognizing that same-sex couples can adopt and then can be parents as well. And also having those access to equal access to healthcare is very important. So having those policies in place provide a platform for inclusion and equality, but we have to start thinking about equity as well. So making sure that we acknowledge that LGBTQ plus employees as a collective group have needs that other groups don't have. Those needs are about creating this safe space for them to be themselves, to come out if they want to be recognized in alignment to their gender identity, and being appreciated beyond their sexual orientation. So I think we have to have those policies in place for sure, but they will come to nothing if we don't follow up or follow through with a safe space, building that safe space for the LGBTQ plus community to be themselves.
Wow.
Can I add something?
Can I add? Yes, of course. I was actually just about to ask you because, you know, aside from LGBTQ discrimination, there's also disabilities, diba? The people with disabilities, they get also discriminated at workplace. So what are your thoughts about this?
So it's very important for certain companies to have frameworks on how they hire people with disabilities, but they should also remember that the help for people with disabilities or for any marginalized sector in that matter doesn't stop with onboarding. So when you hire these people, your policy shouldn't stop there, but also it goes beyond it. Like when they start working, was it inclusive for these people? Is the process inclusive? Not just, okay, we hired as a number of people. So we're not talking about numbers here. It's not just business as usual. Because these people are living individuals and they are part of different marginalized sectors. And it's really important to address their needs from the hiring to our onboarding and, of course, the retention of these people in the business. So it's very, very important.
What about for people in the
mental health sector?
Yeah.
So, I really admire TASAS for providing, aside from health access that Anna mentioned earlier, they also provide actually mental health access for LGBTQI plus individuals. And I'm also one of the consultants of TASAS din, that provides mental health access. But aside from that, of course, I admire your program, I admire your policies, but I've also encountered in other organizations, they also provide health benefits that also help transgender to transition. Yes, they give that kind of access. Here in the Philippines, it's something that is so progressive. So I was actually amazed when I saw that. Yeah, so yeah, that's also one of the things that you might also consider in the future. Yes.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. What amazes me is that, we have a company. Of course, when you have a company, you have a group of people. And, there are people who are LGBT, there are people who are with disabilities, mental health issues. And all of these can also come, you can also be a person with disabilities and stuff.
Yes.
So it's really important that you tackle all these issues that the person may face and help them get through it. So with that, what has TASAS done in the past that the other companies can replicate, not just in the Philippines, but the world?
I can take that and then I'll turn it over to Anna, but I think RIYAN pointed that out really well. When we're talking about awareness, you can't generalize the entire community. As Marcos said, there's that intersectionality that some of these individuals might also be PWD. Just within the LGBTQIA plus community, there are trans individuals who might need special care as well. And if that's something that your company can invest in, I think it's really worth studying and looking into. I must say that's really progressive. That's not something that you always hear every day. And maybe Anna and I will have a talk after this and have really more concrete recommendations after this panel.
Thank you. Anna, I'm actually curious, are there specific practices that should be, implemented by other companies?
Yes, I think what I've seen here in TASAS since I joined, it's on the voluntary self-identification part that Ari was mentioning. I think TASAS took it a step further. And in our metrics and systems, we are able to distinguish between birth gender and gender identity. So employees have the ability to self-identify on gender identity, and our mainstream systems have the ability to, help them use the preferred names and pronouns in the formal and informal communications. I think we still have to work on other downstream systems that go from there, but in their main ones, we are able to offer them that opportunity. So I think to me, that's different and new, and I really like it because we really give them the chance to express themselves and take it to the next level. And I think also TASAS has a great wellness and resiliency program, and in the past, and they continue to do it right now, they offer these coaching and counseling sessions. We have a mental health specialist as part of our team that they really, and these benefits are available for employees every time. And at all times, so they can have access to these mental health resources. And they have also helped us with the educational part as well, gender identity and pronouns, and how to support the LGBTQ plus community be more included. So we have those. There's also, of course, this confidence line that we have that will allow any employee to talk about any discrimination happenings or anything that happens on that regard. And we're also very involved with the community. So we have participated in several LGBTQ plus community support activities. We have supported Home for the Golden Gaze and Love Yourself, a couple of organizations that are very great here in the Philippines, and we are very happy to be supporting them because we really want to make an impact in the communities that we support and work. So I would say all those things are kind of really going a step beyond to just making those policies and that's it. We really want to provide a safe space for employees. So,
thank you, Anna. Actually, it is amazing how we go beyond what is required.
Yeah.
Diba? So, policies are, of course, just part of the discussion. A lot of this boils down to the openness of individuals to make the world a better place to live in. So let's move on to action steps that individuals can do now. Let's talk to our ally friends. What do you think it means to be an ally? And what can our allies do to convince others that we mean no harm and that we're all people too?
Well, I think I would like to define what an ally means. No, when we talk about ally, so ally for me, it's being a true friend. An ally means you are someone who speaks up and stands with LGBTQI plus against any forms of discrimination and stigma. They have empathy and they see us as an equal. I think that's a true ally. And about that, in terms of what they can do to convince other people or to promote awareness, I think, I don't think they need to convince others about our struggles. For me, I think it's more powerful, or it's powerful if they live and they apply the principles of allyship, because it's really hard to convince other people if they see this connection between what you say and what you do. So I think it's the best way to show them. It's better to show them instead of convincing them. So, and people are more receptive and accepting if they see it, that you live the principles of allyship. So, yeah. Show it.
Show it.
For me, it's really important for our ally friends to become educated of the plight of LGBTQ community. I think that it all boils down to awareness. Once they know the basics of how is it to be an LGBTQ community, the language will follow, and the other microaggressions probably will be lessened for the community. And it's really, for me, it's really important to be educated and be critical of the plight of the LGBTQ community.
Yeah. For me, I appreciate my friends who always ask questions. Like, the best allies, I think, are those who never assume. Because when you ask questions, when you ask your questions, meaning you're interested to know, you want to learn and you want to educate yourself. And if people don't ask questions, I think we should be calling them out. For example, at the workplace, if you see someone gaslighting you, or you just don't like the pronouns they use for you, I think we should call it out. But I really appreciate my friends who are straight, and then they ask first, is that okay? Did I say it correctly? Or am I right in assuming that? So I think that's being a good ally.
Being sensitive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not being assuming, being mindful, basically.
And also I would like to add, keeping yourself abreast with latest and accurate information about SOGI. It's really important. And also be open if another fellow advocate or someone tries to correct you with the proper pronouns and other things. Yeah, so I think that's it.
Anna?
I think for me, allyship is, it's a journey. As I think about it as a way in which I'm trying to design all the programs for Taskas to have a journey to be more inclusive. I can speak of my own journey as an ally, and it starts with education, definitely, as all of you have said, but it's also an intentional effort. It's being mindful all the time of using the correct pronouns, of using gender-neutral language, so really educating myself and changing the way I am and behave, so to make sure I'm providing this safer space for other LGBTQ plus people. And I think it's very important to, of course, do more than show up for pride marches and, do more than, wear rainbows. And we have to do it all the time, every day, and be brave and become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because sometimes, as an ally, I have to step up and gonna say, hey, these person's pronouns are this, you know, and other times I would say, this is not okay, what you're saying, this is could be considered discrimination. So being able to speak up for our LGBTQ plus community, I think this is something that I'm very proud of. But it's a journey, you know, it's taking a long time to educate myself. And like Ari says, just asking questions and coming from a place of curiosity.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. You know, just to share, I think what it means to be a true ally is that your allyship should not stop after when Pride ends.
Yes.
Diba? Yun yung mahalaga. Because right now, we see a lot of Pride. We see people attending Pride March. But right after that,
They don't support the cause.
diba? What happens next, diba? So I feel like if you're an ally, you have to continuously, your support should not stop when Pride Month ends.
Yes.
And at the same time, I feel like being an ally, you know, the bare minimum is to simply respect and support people of the LGBTQ community. And when we say support, it means that you see that person as someone as equal as do you.
Yeah.
Diba? Kasi sometimes we forget, we think that if you respect someone, we think that respect is not the same as support. But it actually is, diba? Because how can you say that you respect a person of the LGBTQ plus community if you don't support that they should have equal rights?
Yeah.
Right.
That always rubbed me the wrong way, because how can you respect someone but you don't want them to have equal rights?
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's not a special right. No?
Yeah.
To all our live viewers, it's not a special right. It's a basic human right. The mere fact that we're humans, meaning we are, we have that right. So give us that right.
So speaking about, you know, allyship and in general, are there misconceptions that we should address regarding, you know, the LGBTQ community?
I think we have a lot of misconceptions on the LGBTQI. For instance, about coming out. So when we talk about coming out, it's about disclosing your sexuality to a person, to a group of people, or to anyone you're comfortable with. So common misconception is that when someone comes out, they feel like they are allowed to out this person to public. So remember that when you come, that coming out is a personal, it's personal decision. It's very personal. So if someone comes out to you, don't forget to acknowledge the courage of that person and ask that person if you are allowed to share it with others, because coming out is something that can't be shared to anyone. You can't really share it to everyone.
Yeah.
So unless this person is really out in public. So yeah, one is coming out.
Yeah, because coming out is a personal journey and a
Yeah.
choice for us, diba? But, you know, speaking of coming out, I came across this video, and it was very enlightening because it talked about how we should maybe have a shift in mindset. Rather than, you know, come out, we should welcome people in. Because when we say we come out, it's like we owe an explanation to other people. We owe, diba, our identities to other people when we don't.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that shift in mindset, because when we say that we welcome people in, diba, you are a guest.
The responsibility.
Diba? Yes,
to
you have
yourself.
agency over
Yeah.
yourself. You have
Yeah.
agency over your identities. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's how it should be.
Oh, that's nice.
I feel like it's beautiful because, you know, welcome, this is my truth, this is who I am. Be kind to me because I welcomed you in my truth. Take off your shoes as you enter, diba? I saw that in, his name is Schuler Baylor, if you know him. He's a trans man advocate. And after I've seen that video, I really loved how, you know, that shift in mindset na I'm no longer coming out. I'm more of welcoming people in. Because parang the power, the agency over you have on yourself and who you are, it's powerful. So remember that.
That's really good.
Okay, so my next question though is, are these values that we see do we see them in the younger generations? Do we see them resonate with these values that we just mentioned earlier?
Well, I think based on my observation, and I think you will agree with what I will say, no, Rika, kasi you're also a content creator in TikTok. I've seen Gen Zs who are very out in TikTok. They are actually showing off their partners, and most of them are creating videos that educate people about soji and sexuality. So, yeah, I think that kind of resonate with the Gen Z's values. But of course, it's something that that is only visible to me, no? I believe some Gen Zs are privileged, no, because they have access in internet. But in real life, there are other Gen Zs that need to be educated.
I think for the Gen Zs, they're more accepting of the different sectors now, and they want to express more themselves. As content creators, I know you know that they want to express more, whether on social media or in personal. So these liberal values are really inculcated now with the Gen Zs, and I think that we could be more accepting towards the community. Because of these younger generations, because of the values that they have. So that resonates, I think. Yeah.
And I also encountered pala, I would like to add lang, most of them are politically correct. They
Yes.
tend to correct other people na okay. They tend to call out other people na may negative remarks.
Yes.
And then they correct other people na, use this pronoun kasi this is the pronoun of this person. So they are more aware. So I really admire Gen Zs. I love them.
Yeah, they're definitely paving the way, for more acceptance, more inclusion, and, normalizing. And just the fact that we have, LGBTQ plus community, love is love, and in whichever form, whichever way, whereas before it was just two ways. That's it. So I guess having those new generations paving out the way, and I cannot wait to see what the other generation is going to do. Like my kids, they are going to be the alpha generation. So I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen with that generation. Follow up the Gen Z. So yeah.
Let's see.
It actually is exciting to see that there is progress happening, and I feel like this generation is very lucky because information is out there. You can easily search it up on the internet because, during my time, during our time, actually our time, diba? We're not that old, but, during my time, I had to figure things out by myself, and as a transgender woman, that was hard. That was difficult. I did not have anyone to look up to.
Or you had to experience it.
Yeah, I had to experience it all on my own, and it was very difficult for me to understand who I was.
Yeah.
Because at a very young age, especially in the Philippines, Anna, I'm sure you're aware of this, but we don't really separate, SOGIs, gender identity and sexual orientation.
Yeah.
We all just clump them in one category. We only have one label for them, bakla, yun na yun. Diba? But growing up, I realized that this generation is indeed lucky because we now have, more awareness when it comes to SOGI. So, ayun.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to answering live questions and the live Q&A, from our viewers. Thank you so much. Hi, viewers. Okay, so this is a question from Andrea Alido. Making a conscious effort to educate yourself is an important aspect to be an effective ally.
Yes, I agree.
Agree.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Consciousness. Yeah.
True. Tama naman talaga.
Yeah.
That you always have to make a conscious effort and a conscious
Educate
choice to
yourself.
support.
Yeah. And sometimes it's uncomfortable and silly to ask those questions na, is it okay if I call you he, she, it? But really, that's the consciousness, the intention that we've been talking about. Me also personally, when you were saying welcome people in, even if I assume someone is straight, let's say whether she's my cousin or friend or whoever, after seeing them after such a long time, I really ask them, oh, so are you single now? The usual tito who's very tita, and oh, are you single now or ganyan? Do you have a boyfriend, girlfriend? Like, I make them feel that it's okay to tell me whoever you're dating, whatever your preference is.
Yeah.
So I think not just for allies, but for everyone in general, you have to just be ready that, they're going to surprise you with their answer, or the person you met maybe 10 years ago is different now, because there's also that complexity in human beings that, I used to like, let's say, straight women, but now I'm into maybe, I don't know, lesbians or something like that, or right? So just don't assume.
Okay,
And I think also, the other side of it is if you become too intentional, then you can be awkward, right? So like Adam was saying, it's important to just approach everyone with that same respect curiosity and openness instead of just focusing on the LGBTQ plus community. Because it's going to be all work for you every time you have to remember the pronouns. It's just changing that mindset to be more open and more respectful and curious.
Right.
Yeah. We have another comment from Jericho E. Choi for Min. Yes, letting people in over coming out. Happy Pride.
Oh.
But we learned
Happy
something new
Pride.
today. I was super amazed when I heard that. Parang, di ba, parang life-changing siya.
Yes,
Good reminder.
it's a good reminder.
So, from Raj Mariano, a really powerful shift in mindset regarding coming out versus welcoming people in. Mukhang patok ang welcoming people in. Welcome! Welcome! This is me!
Wala nang magka-out.
Yeah.
Everyone just open your door.
Wala na yung song na I'm coming out. I'm gonna welcome people in na dapat. How do we this is a question from Andrea Alido. How do we politely ask or approach someone of their gender identity or SOGI?
You start by asking their pronouns. And don't forget, if you're going to ask their pronouns, drop the preferred word, because when you ask them, what is your preferred pronoun, it implies that they chose their SOGI or their sexuality. So, what are your pronouns na lang? So, drop the preferred. Kasi you're telling them na parang, okay, parang they choose their SOGI. So, what are your pronouns? That's a good way to start.
Yes.
That is actually, when you mentioned that to drop the preferred, I used to say, what are your preferred pronouns? Because that's how we were taught to, like, a couple of, let's say, a year ago, 2 years ago, last year, diba? But that is also the beautiful thing about society right now. We are continuously progressing,
Always
Yes.
changing.
to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
And, now that you brought that up, that does make sense. So,
Yeah.
ayun, alam niyo na, drop the preferred.
Yeah, I actually learned that from another co-advocate. That's why when you're an advocate or staunch advocate of LGBTQI+, you have to be open with
Open.
the feedback.
And there is always something new to learn.
Yes.
Every
Like
day.
welcoming in.
Welcoming in,
Yes.
diba? Okay, so thank you so much for your thoughts. So before we end, this is such a packed discussion, but we're unfortunately running out of time. I'd like to ask the panel for their closing thoughts on what we've discussed so far. So, I'll start. I guess all I want to say is that we have seen so much progress. And it is amazing what the community has achieved so far, but there is still a long way to go before we can truly say that, we're accepted in society. So we continue the fight, and that is why Pride, we still, march with Pride. That's why Pride is still happening, because let's always remember that it's not just a celebration, it is a protest. So as long as there is still discrimination happening, we will continue to fight for equality.
Yes.
So, RIYAN?
I would like to recognize the efforts of the allies and the advocates. And of course, I would like to thank the organizers of this event. Yes. Happy Pride. And again, I would like to recognize the efforts of the allies and advocates. Thank you so much for putting effort and helping the community. So, I think that's it lang. Let's continue to show love and support to the community, because we need that. Hopefully we'll get there, no?
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get that right, no? That is for us.
Marcos?
Yeah, for me, I think everyone should remember that inclusion is everyone's job. No, it's not just our policymakers' job. It's not our HR's job, our boss's job. No, inclusion should be present in every space that we are in, and we should reclaim our space. For the LGBTQ community, we should reclaim our space, and remember, gender is a construct. Break it.
Right.
Wow.
I love that. For me, I want to talk to all the leaders out there, whether you're in government, you're a decision maker, you're part of a corporation, or maybe you're the head of a family. I think education can start from you because you have that authority. You also have that power to change policy, to change how people think. Maybe you have that resource to invest in, let's say, education, or just, if you're part of a corporation, invest in people who are experts in these or who are passionate about these, so that someone can also educate you. So for me, look at your own spaces, look at what your resources are, and see what you can do about it and make that change.
I think for me, it all comes down to mitigating bias in ourselves. So being very mindful of the bias that we have and mitigate them with education, with awareness, and with empathy as well. So starting there, we can change a lot of things and we can make a safer space, not only for our LGBTQ plus community, but for everyone.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to thank our esteemed panel. Thanks so much for sharing your time with us, and special thanks to Task Us for sponsoring this roundtable discussion. We hope you learned a lot today. I'm RICA Salomon, and this was See the World Through a Rainbow Lens, a roundtable discussion on why LGBTQ plus inclusivity matters. Thank you. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.